Hello and welcome back to the Middling Along podcast. My guest this time is Kate Codrington. Kate's the author of Second Spring, the Self-Care Guide to Menopause. Published by Harper Collins, it's the first book to give a psychological map for menopause and one of the top 10 self-help books of 2022, according to The Independent. Kate mentors people in perimenopause and beyond, one-to-one online. She runs groups, nature-based Yoga Nidra sessions, which I really want to find out more about in a second. And she's also the host of Life and Inside Job podcast. On top of all that, she creates multi-level art textile projects. And when she's not doing all of that, you'll find her mucking about in her compost heap. I think we're kindred spirits. Welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thank you. I've just been playing in my compost heaps this morning, actually. Giving them a little chat, having a little chat.
I spent this morning having a poke around your website and I've pulled out this quote. I love it. So it's just in case you're wondering, you do not need improving. You are not a fixer-upper. You're a beautiful, fallible human operating in an imperfect world that can make you feel that you're not good enough. Gazillions of pounds are generated out of making us feel bad about ourselves. And if you're a highly sensitive person or in menopause, this can be challenging. And I think that will resonate with lots of people listening.
I know I wrote that, but I feel slightly teary hearing it back again.
It's beautiful.
Because it's so true. You know, we, as people who are socialized as female, as young girls, we're educated into thinking that we're broken, you know, and this is so inside ourselves, you know, we're so marinated in it.
Yeah.
That we don't even know
it.
We don't even know it's there. But I'm constantly coming across in myself and in other people when we're not as well as we'd like to be, a sense of shame, a sense of feeling, if only we had got it right, then we wouldn't be in this pickle. Or if only, I don't know, if only we hadn't had the cream bun, or if only, you know,
or the mince
if
pies.
only. But very, very often it's because of external circumstances.
We're very hard on ourselves. We set ourselves very high standards, perhaps kind of impossible to achieve standards, and then wonder why we're so stressed or burnt out or unhappy or always looking for something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about Second Spring, and maybe we should start first of all by explaining the sort of the meaning of Second Spring, if listeners haven't come across that before, because it's essentially what they call menopause, or the second chapter of your life, if you like, in Chinese culture. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a new old concept. So, you know, thousands of years ago, when the was it the Yellow Emperor wrote the book of traditional Chinese medicine, he wrote about Second Spring being the second half of life. And my seasonal map, which Second Spring explains, describes your teens as your first spring, when you're with qualities of curiosity and discovering the world and finding out who you are. In summer as expressing who you are, having your sense of self sort of seen in the world, whether that's through family or work or activism or whatever. And then in the autumn, which is coming into perimenopause, our attention slowly changes from looking out into the world to looking in towards ourselves. So checking in with our values, checking in with our energy levels, checking in with what we feel is right and wrong. And, you know, anybody listening will hear the problem with this is that when we're in summer, the world celebrates us and we don't mind picking up wet towels and staying on late after work and taking care of other people's stuff when they haven't done it so well as we could.
Coming back to those impossible standards again.
Possible standards. And then in autumn, we're not doing that anymore. So, we perimenopause is a time when we stop playing the game. We're kind of shedding the socialization that I mentioned at the beginning. And that's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable because we lose other people's appreciation, because we're not being the ever loving, ever nice, ever kind, estrogenic,
Yeah.
loving,
Yeah. Why are you so
forgiving.
grumpy? Oh, I don't
Why
know.
are you so
You tell
grumpy?
me.
Yeah, because I woke up. And a lot of the sort of mood issues and the rage that people feel in perimenopause, in my opinion, is very often justified. It may not be convenient. It's probably not comfortable, but if you're thinking about social justice, there's a lot to be angry about.
Yeah.
If you're looking at
signposting.
if you're
Something.
looking at the climate emergency, there's a lot to be angry about. And I think that we kind of catch up with our feelings, and we're more sensitive at this point to all kinds of things, as we know, sort of food and stress and noise and light. Other people who don't fit, other people who are draining on our energy, who don't fit with our ethos. And so there's a lot of disruption.
That's an interesting point that you make about, so we're, a lot of the sort of the narrative in the media is about sort of perimenopause, menopause as a thing to be fixed and medicated or otherwise, or focusing on the sort of the external, the symptoms, but actually it's so much more than that, what you're talking about and I think if we can understand it as a sort of almost like a necessary thing that we need to go through to have that recalibration, that reevaluation, I think that puts a slightly different spin on it.
It's like the mother of all Mary Kondo clear outs.
Does it bring you joy? If not, chuck it out.
Yeah. And, there is a very strong narrative at the moment about deficiency. And I find I range between feeling very uncomfortable to full on ranty furious about it, because it plays into this description of female cycles as being defective. And why don't you just get a grip, take the medication, and get on with serving other people in the way you always have?
Put your big girl pants on and
put your big
crack
girl
on.
pants on and crack on. And HRT can be, for many people, an absolute lifesaver. I mean, literally a lifesaver. And thank God it is slowly coming into awareness that more people need this medication. And I'm hoping that in the next 5 years, then supply will become more reliable. And the Mary Kondo effect still is happening.
Yeah, it's just one tool in the toolkit, and
Exactly.
it's not the silver bullet for everybody anyway. And some people, regardless of whether they can take it or not, may decide not to. What are the sort of the ways that we can really support ourselves through that kind of our Marie Kondo time through
Well,
our
just to
shedding?
say, we're still in autumn. So I'll just anchor that, and we'll get into winter and second spring and the second cycle shortly. So if you are struggling in perimenopause, you're likely to be in an autumn phase. And what will help you here is essentially editing out stuff that you don't need in your life. And that might well be looking at your cupboards. That's a great place to start to clear out. But there's probably also low-hanging fruit around, like, I don't know, worrying about stuff. I'm not talking about anxiety, but when our minds are taken up with worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, worrying about that's a great thing to let go of, or domestically to pass on tasks to other people, to delegate stuff, to let stuff go, to lower your standards, really, because as we've named a couple of times, our standards of ourselves are usually unreasonably high. Going slow and going slower and nourishing yourself in whatever way is good for you. So, there's a lot of information about food and about how to manage yourself, how to manage symptoms, how to manage difficulties in menopause. And Second Spring my book has a lot of suggestions around that. But in my experience, we already know what works for us. You already know if your pleasure is kickboxing or lying wrapped up in a blanket. You already know this about yourself. You already know if you're more of a kind of spicy curry kind of person that makes you happy, or whether you're Horlicks, Ovaltine, both deep and wonderful pleasures, that will. Oh, I think I have to have some Horlicks. I feel unexpectedly joyful. I have no idea where that came from, but there you go. This is what I love about podcasts.
Where
All
will
kinds
it
of
take you
stuff
today?
flies into my head. Where did that? Anyway, there we go. Horlicks. So the idea is to give yourself more of what already gives you pleasure, and with the intention of clearly and consciously prioritizing your own needs.
Yeah.
Because it's another way of looking at perimenopause is as a recalibration. So all those years of giving, all those years of serving others, and now it's your turn.
It's hard to break out of that. Out of that role if we're so entrenched in it. And
Damn right, it's hard. But what happens if you don't? We can make small changes, like chipping away tiny little changes, taking that cup of tea and we were talking about holding warm cups in our hands, really letting the warmth suffuse our hands and arms. That somatic reassurance is a great place to start right now while you're listening to this. I've lost my thread now. What was it? I was going to say something else.
We're talking a little bit about slowing down as well, and I think so.
How difficult it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So if you're uncertain and like, I really can't, and most people hit real blocks about, I really can't. I'm doing my best here. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah. How
okay,
can
and
I
stay out of my face? This is not. I meet that a lot. And my response is usually, well, what are you teaching your kids?
Yeah.
If you're not able to prioritize yourself even a tiny bit, it is likely that you're teaching your community, your co-workers, your kids, the young people, and the older people around you how it is to burn out.
Yeah, we don't have worth. We don't have value. We don't value ourselves.
And inadvertently, we're perpetuated by putting our big girl pants on and getting a grip. We're perpetuating this burnout and this lack of self-worth through the generations. That's a bit serious and that's a bit hard on. But that, if you need more motivation than your own care, then look at the bigger picture. How do you want your children's children to be? The girls in your life, their kids, their girls.
Yeah.
If we're still pushing through now, then the likelihood is that we're teaching the young women around us to push through, and then they're girls too.
Yeah, we're reinforcing the idea that that's the way to be. That's the optimal state.
Yeah, that's the status quo. That's how it should be.
So we kind of go through. If autumn is the perimenopause, then is winter menopause.
Then we come into a more wintry time, and of course this is a map, and maps all look very neat. But when you're walking down the road, looking at a map, looking at Google Maps, the map on your phone doesn't look like the street you're actually on.
Yeah.
So in real life, we're going to move in between these different places, between autumn and winter. And you'll get a bit of spring and maybe a bit of summer, and you'll be, yeah, it's gone again, So, but in the broad picture, so in this sort of broad brush painting, perimenopause is autumnal. And coming into winter, you will be feeling a bit more acceptance. It's like the beginning of, okay, so I'm really angry. Maybe I could give a little space for that. It's moving from pushing away feelings to allowing a bit more feeling. It's moving from, get out of my face, Kate, I have no time. I'm not listening to you. There's no, to, okay, so maybe I could put 10 minutes between my Zoom meetings instead of 5. Maybe I could ask somebody else to put the Tesco shop away. So it's moving into a state where we accept ourselves more and can allow more rest. It's more acceptance. And again, in real life, we'll be going in between the two, probably before breakfast, pendulating in and out, because we're human, right? And the second spring, which is the title of the book, this is the beginning of a whole new cycle post-menopause. So the second spring has similar qualities to our teenage spring. So of curiosity, of going out in the world and falling on our face, of longing for, I don't know, longing for life, of longing for. I'm waving my hands a lot, so you can't hear my hands waving. For the possibility of life, I think, and all of this is operating anyway, however knackered you are, however rested you are, whatever your income or degree of privilege, this is still operating as a soul longing. So if you are not, there's a kind of, in the kind of woomy female empowerment world, there's this trope of the wise woman and coming into your power and all this kind of stuff. And this can be another stick to beat ourselves up with.
Didn't find my power yet. I failed again.
Failed! I really kind of, people say, oh, Kate's in her second spring, the wise woman. I'm like, yeah, right. Because we still bring our patterns and our wounds with us, more or less healed. And we're in spring. So it's intensely vulnerable and wibbly wobbly. And we have this longing to find out who we are in the world, but we don't know yet. And this spring is followed by a summer. If you think about women and non-binary people in their 60s, early 70s, they're very often, if they're able to, they're very often taking up pottery or painting or climbing up mountains or going away or engaging with their grandchildren or young people, or there's a sort of journey into the world. My sister has become an amazing photographer, and she's traveling all over the world taking these extraordinary images in her second summer. She's just edging into her second summer now. And second autumn is concerned with letting go, downsizing, letting go of possessions. And at the end of our winter, then we shuffle off this earth, and whatever happens next. This gives a different degree of possibility, a different map for the second half of our life, and one where we can think, and there have never been, I'm sure other guests have said this, there have never been so many educated people in menopause as there are now. So what are we going to do? On one level, we're writing a new story. So what do we want that new story to be? Who are your role models? Who do you aspire to be? What, like adults ask, poor children, who do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I don't know yet.
Yeah, it's the most ridiculous question when you think about it.
It is a ridiculous question, but I think in menopause and post-menopause, I think it's quite a good question. Is it more Maya Angelou or more Margaret Atwood? Well,
and do we dare to listen to the answers, or are we a bit scared of them?
Well, it can be a bit scary, because then what? But I think it's an interesting question to play with. And we can certainly bring the qualities of our Shiros into our lives. Or my favourite game is, what would Margaret Atwood do? So obviously I can't write like that. Obviously I am not her. But I can call in the qualities. I used in difficult situations, I used to call him Gandalf. Like, what would Gandalf do? Okay, Call in these powerful people into your life.
We're chatting. I don't know when this is necessarily going to come out, but we're talking on the first day of December, which is my birthday month. So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with December. But we were talking off air about how how can we be kind to ourselves going through this sort of winter period, and especially I think this year above many others, it's it is going to be a hard winter for a lot of people. So any kind of tips and thoughts from you about going into this winter and nurturing ourselves?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's really relevant and important. And people listening to this are likely to be in perimenopause. So you'll be in double winter, so that there's more wintry. So allow yourself, I can, even saying that, I can feel the heaviness.
Hunker down, folks.
Hunker down. Lie on the earth, lie on the sofa. Let yourself do that and let go of your expectations of yourself. Do less. Go slower. December is insanely busy for people, and it is still possible to slow your step. It is still possible to be aware sometimes that your foot is on the earth, whether it's on a carpet or in the mud or on the pavement or on the bus. You can come to a consciousness that we are on this earth in this winter. Being outside always trumps pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
And that can be, and I'm really not good at cold, and obviously this year picking freezing. But I jolly myself along to get myself to even stick my nose out the back door and take a couple of breaths, and that is just like I'm 50% better at that point. And to enjoy softness, however that shows up for you. So softness might be that the warmth of the cup in your hands, and again bringing your attention into the senses of softness, of softening. It might be softening your shoulders. I would really love it if you could soften around your judgments about yourself, give a little space around that. Maybe notice that it's a thought and you're not your thoughts, perhaps. Because, in everywhere at the moment, even this year, the expectations of Christmas and stuff are still
bombarded with all of the consume.
Let's not get into that because I'll just rant
for
another hour about waste of all kinds. And just know that is, again, it's a bit of softness around, well, this is somebody selling me something. And what actually matters is my connection with myself and my connection with, the people I love around me. And that's the thing to nurture.
So I know next to nothing about Yoga Nidra. How can that sort of, again, help us to slow down, to rest in different forms?
Well, Yoga Nidra is it's a kind of meditation, and it's a great kind of meditation for people who hate meditation. It's akin to being a little kid, being really safe and tucked up, and somebody telling you a story. And it follows a particular formula that takes you through a body, what do you call it? A body scan kind of thing, with a bit of imagery, a bit of visualization. And it takes you to it takes you into a meditative state of mind, very, very simply and easily, so that you can restore calm or reduce the overload on our nervous systems. And you can do it sitting up, you can do it lying down. They can be 15 minutes long, so they're quite quick. And my particular interest with this is to connect the body with the earth. So to come back into remembering that we as humans are not separate from the earth, and to connect in with our seasons, the season as it is now, for example. So I have probably I have a Nidra in December, and this will be, I think, around starlight. And space is going to be a bit cosmic. They're not always cosmic.
Not
They're
too
quite
rude.
often about leaves and earth and animals and blossoming in the summer and all that kind of thing. But I'm feeling a bit cosmic at the moment and spacious. So this one is going to be about starlight and being open to, well, I don't know, I haven't written it yet, but
Oh,
that
sounds
kind of thing.
beautiful.
And it takes you into a very, hopefully, it takes people safely, and they're trauma sensitive, these nidras that I do. They
Okay.
take you into a very expanded space, but also bring you back safely into the earth and your bed or sofa or chair or wherever you are as well, so that you know where you are. And that is very good for humans.
That sounds lovely. I think, and also, if people are struggling to kind of give themselves permission to slow down, to rest, something to kind of to pin that on, and for a very kind of defined amount of time, right? I defy anyone to say they can't find 15 minutes.
Yeah, if you can, then stop scrolling. But there's loads of free ones on my site, and you can just drop in there if you go through the email sign up. There's this massive Aladdin's cave of all kinds of different flavors and types, and I think there's one that's 10 minutes, a 10-minute work break job. So there's it's very accessible.
Fabulous. I'm going to give that a go. And we'll report back. And so the other part of your work is one-to-one or sort of small group work. What do people kind of come to you hoping to achieve through that?
I think people want to find their way through. That's usually when people first contact me. It's like, how do I navigate this, given the gap between what I need and my life? And so I use a sort of combination of like really practical stuff around, well, how can you build in all these things that we're talking about, letting go of your expectations, more rest, more softness, more nourishment, more pleasure in your life, and also looking at the underneath patterns. So that I've been gifted a practice called a medicine circle from Red School, the menstruality educators, and this takes us through the seasons. It's a guided visualization process, an energy medicine that takes us into the seasons so that we can feel what's happening in the seasons. And that might be the seasons of your menstrual life or the seasons of your life. And we can go back and chat to your teenage self, or we can go and, use your inner archetypes will emerge, and your inner helpers and allies will emerge in this process, safely held, because it's in this like very defined circle of seasons. And this has this gives you tools in your everyday life.
Well, there's loads more information on your website, so I'll make sure that we link
In the
to that.
compost.
And as you've already said, there's a wealth of free stuff to get people started with things like Yoga Nidra if they've never done that before, and also obviously pop a link to the book, so people can read that. But it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm going to make a very positive intent to go into the busyness of December with an intention to find pockets of slowness and calm and rest.
Yeah, beautiful.
Kate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Middling Along podcast. Do remember to subscribe to be notified when our next episode is live. And why not visit the blog at www.middlingalong.com to sign up to my newsletter as well. I do hope you enjoyed listening today. If you did, I'd be really grateful if you would consider leaving a short review, as that helps people find the podcast and helps get it noticed. Hope you can join us next time. Goodbye for now.